Welcome back, everybody, to an Untold Narrative. We have episode 53 here in the books. An Untold Narrative is a podcast that hosts unknown creatives from different disciplines around the globe, from art to photography to murals to footwear design to anything in between. And today's guest is no different. We feature Vanessa Orozco, which I knew I was going to get incorrect.
You're good. Orozco.
Who goes by the alias Verogi? Did I nail it?
You're good.
Okay, thank you. For those watching on YouTube, I did not nail it at all. But thanks for joining us. How are you? Where are you?
I am good. I am home. I am close to my finish line to my dream. So a little bit of a lot happening, but I'm happy. It's good feelings.
Yeah, I'm excited about this podcast because it comes on the dawn of her first solo show, which we'll get into. But to start, just if somebody asks you who you are, what do you do, what's your 30-second elevator pitch about yourself?
So I am a little bit of everything. I am a single mom of 2 kids. I also, I worked since I was 13, so I've been able and blessed to be in different fields. But mostly what I like to consider myself, it's being a creative, being able to push my boundaries, to, push my vision forward. And I've fallen more into that in the last, I would say, 2 years of my life. And I'm just here to co-create with many minds like mine, to be able to share dreams and hopefully make them reality, and really to hopefully inspire people who are trapped in the, mindset of I can't do this or I can't pursue that because X, Y, and Z. And I'm just here to kind of be that type of person who I've had in my life from previous people who just went for it. And I'm grateful for that.
And I think, so we met in person for the first time a week ago or so, because you're like, I'm not joining some podcast with some random person, even though we live in the same city, repping Worcester, Massachusetts. So, but I did do a tiny bit of research because you're really starting out as an artist, right? You said, getting into creative like the past 2 years primarily, but so I kind of was trying to figure out some things about yourself, and I'd love for you to share kind of your background of like where you come from and some of your upbringing and kind of the things that have molded you, because it's interesting that you say that you're a mother first, right? Which I feel like most moms do say that first. But you have a very unique and kind of powerful background kind of story. So I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Medellin, Colombia, which is in South America. My upbringing was not the best. I witnessed many horrible things. I would say I'm finally in a point in my life where I'm able to make peace with it, and therefore pursue my art as why I'm doing that. Because as a child, art was my escape, was what gave me the peace to imagine things, to get out of my darks, and to, create a different world in my head, although my reality was so different. My mom was kidnapped, and then we were able to apply for political asylum. We were granted that, and moving here with nothing, not knowing the language, obviously, letting go of everything I had ever known, even though it was as bad as it was all I knew. And then realizing that you moved to a different country and everything is so different, and you have to pretty much reroot yourself. And now you're a mix of what you thought you were, and now you're trying to see who you're going to become. And then it's all mashed together, and you have to make the best of it. And it's just you and your mom. I become my mom's pretty much attorney, medical advisor, because I'm the one that can speak English. So everywhere she needs me, I got to get dragged. We didn't have the best of relationships. In my youth, I was suicidal. So it was a lot, but today I can actually sit here and tell you openly that it is all that and all the dark, and maybe not the best of the people around me that were able to bring me to where I am today. Faith is very important to me. God is very important to me. And it's the reason why I chose to be, who I am today. I choose to be light. I choose to embrace that that's what made me. Embrace that, I have ADHD. Embrace that my anxiety, it's there, and embrace that that's part of what I am. And it's, as a mother, as you mentioned, to Sarah, my kids, and to think that they're going to face the same things I did. And for me not to be a good example of what it means to lead by example will be such a failure as a mother, to know that they are going to see me struggle when they grow up. And that's okay. We all have certain disabilities at some point, not in a medical aspect, but there's certain barriers and fears that we all face. And so I think for me, my past is really what has given me the courage to just step forward and say, why can I not pursue this? Why not? I faced so much already. Why is showing my art gonna kill me if what actually could have had didn't?
That is a lot to unpack, and thank you for sharing that. I chill city all the way down my spine as you were speaking. And that is thank you for being honest and transparent with everybody, because I do agree with you that you have to confront those things in order to move forward and make yourself better. And I think that's an inspiration in itself, for everybody listening, of that you can overcome any sort of hardship. You just got to put your mind to it. And
I think one of the promises I made myself, because obviously showcasing your art, it's not just the art, it's why you make your art. And one of the things I promised myself is that I wanted to be as raw and as unfiltered as I could be, because that's not going to help the next person. If I just say, hey, I was able to get grants and here I am with my art, it's who I am. So I can't show you my art without showing you who I am.
That is amazing. I love that. And that authentic story, I think, is going to speak to a lot of people. So we'll get into the details of your upcoming show and your art specifically. But I'd love to know, I think you hinted at it even, were you always creative? Were you always kind of artistic, even at a young age, even when you were I think you grew up partially in East Boston, if I read correctly.
Yeah.
Were you always drawing in school and everything like that?
Nonstop. It's funny because actually I was thinking, it's should I tell this part of, how we take the MCAS or any type of math? So I'm really into math and physics and chemistry. That was my strong back in my younger years. But when we had to, solve the problems, I would always draw everything, the scenarios. And I would take so much time that I would miss my timeline because I would be drawing as much as I could, even though it didn't matter, because all you had to do was take the numbers, really. But I would always be drawing. And when I first got here, I went to school in Chelsea, and one of my teachers back then was Mr. Vegas. He really, truly helped me get through some really dark moments back then, but he would always tell me, he said, Vanessa, just do the math. Don't draw. Please don't draw. You're not gonna get graded for your drawing. So yeah, pretty much I've always stuck to pencils, anything I can draw, or if I could, I most of the time I would draw my feelings and how I felt.
So do you think that art became sort of like your therapy outlet, during everything?
Absolutely. It's funny because the reason why I started to actually draw and put my feelings into paper was because when I was 7, um, my mom tried to take me to different therapists, and I wouldn't talk. I couldn't talk about what was happening to me. And one time, this person, this was around 8 to 9, just put out clay, watercolor, acrylics, and she just took out all the mediums. And she said, I'm not here you could do whatever you want, just draw. And I remember my reaction was, I was so happy. I just went straight to the table and I grabbed everything and I started to draw. And then she started to, do her notes based on my drawings,
Yeah,
which back then were pretty dark.
but that's pretty amazing. I mean, sounds like a great therapist, right? That's able to like kind of adapt based on who their clients.
I absolutely. It took me 3 months to actually talk to her what was happening to me. Like the first 3 months, I would just run into her room and we would just go and straight to art. She wouldn't ask me how I'm doing. She'd just like, yeah, go for it. And I think that's what helped me find that outlet for my feelings and what was happening inside of me.
That it really is amazing. You kind of build up that trust or that comfort level with somebody. And honestly, like that could probably be applied to a lot of people, or like a boss at work, or like, how much freedom they give you versus like just being demanding of what you're supposed to be doing in that sphere. So that's really cool to hear. That's a great story. I love that a lot. So how did you end up in Worcester? Because that's obviously where we are. I honestly don't know the answer to this question, so I don't know if there is a story behind it.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Worcester. So we were initially in Boston. I was in school in Boston, but because my mom was obviously working 3 jobs, I only saw her on Sundays. And back then we did not have cell phones like kids these days. So she would never know actually where I was. And I was very, I wasn't a bad kid, but I hated being inside a house. So I would just like be everywhere in the town. I would just grab the bus, I'll take the sub, and I'll be like going everywhere pretty much by myself. So she worried that something might happen to me. And then because of that, she decided to move here because it was, a smaller town, and you really can't take the sub anywhere.
Yeah, not many. Yeah, not many people even take the bus really, depending on what your situation is. But yeah, that sounds like I can maybe a smart decision on her end to keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, it was the mother and her. So we pretty much stayed here. I went back for high school 2 more years. I did high school in Boston, then I came back and finished school here.
That's amazing. And then did you pursue anything for further education after that, or kind of how does this story progress?
So I had my first kid at 21, and I was unable to finish regular school. So I ended up going to Quincy Gimlin first, doing my associates. Then I ended up at Assumption. And so all I did for school was never related to my actual passion, because art doesn't pay bills.
Right.
I don't know if anybody has told you that.
Well,
or that's irresponsible.
times are changing. I do think that we are now in a creator economy. So I do.
Oh, absolutely. But back then, that was the fear. But that's
Right.
very responsible. You can't do that. And all the voices that come around you. And I think that's something that today I'm able to just sit here and say that's just so not true. And even if the times haven't changed, it's like it's your calling, and you shouldn't put a price on it, because what you do, and when you start doing things from your heart, money will usually follow.
Yeah.
You'll be able to do that,
So
because it's really what you do from your heart.
how long ago did you know that like art was something that you wanted to pursue for full time? Because when we met, you told me a really interesting story of your last job and kind of when you made that moment or switch. But
August of 2021, I sat down and I was just having a rough time, you know, seeing myself where I was professionally, and it was affecting my personal life, because, like you see, I am what I am here. Wherever I go, this is what you're gonna get. There's no different other Vanessas. So it's hard to, just walk with the mask. I can't do it. So I jot down on a piece of paper and I told myself, and I said, what if money wasn't an issue? What if time wasn't an issue? What if I had nothing that was stopping me to pursue what I wanted to do? So that's when I narrowed it down to, what is it that I want it to be? What is it that I want it to be doing with my time? Because that's all I have, time. That's the one thing I can never take back. And that's the one thing I could never replace. And so I said, I just see myself everywhere. I want to travel. I want to be able to share what happens in my head, and how, my dreams and my thoughts, and how I get so happy, like a little kid in me, when I just come up with cool concepts. And it's like, that's what really drives me. And so, and then the second part to that was how mind blowing to know that I'm 30 and no one in my life has ever asked me, what makes you happy? It's always, what are you good at? What are your strengths? What is it that you're better than other things? But it has never been, what is it that you love to do? What makes you get out of your bed? Because it shouldn't be paying the mortgage. It shouldn't be paying for the car. It shouldn't be, because it should be beyond that. And those were questions that I'm always tend to be more on the tough love part of things. And it's like, nobody's going to come to save you. Nobody's going to jump out of anywhere and say, you need to stop this because this is not who you are. This is not what you do. This is not what you were granted life for. So nobody's going to do it. And that's why you need to have self-awareness and be very honest with yourself. Otherwise, I didn't want to let life pass me by and just have it filled of regrets.
that's deep. That is just another moment of chill city as you speak, but it's the absolute truth. And it's really amazing. And it also makes me super excited for your future of like, if you can do all and go through everything that you've been through in 30 years plus now, and like now you're like focused purely on what makes your soul super happy. Like, I can't imagine that doesn't end up successfully, right? So
Thank you.
I think we're at an amazing point, and I think the takeaway for our listeners is maybe spend a moment and just jot some ideas down of like, what would make you want to get out of bed if time or if money, if these things weren't an issue. And I do think the most remarkable part, and I obviously have no context to this, but it's you juggling being a mother of two humans at the same time. So if anyone without children is making excuses, I mean,
and my son has autism, so that's like, I have to, and he's high functioning, so he's actually like the reason why I pursued my art, because they see me draw and they see me paint. They paint with me, and then one day my son thought that's what I did for like that's what paid the bills, my art. Like this whole time he thinks, I went to work, but it was because I created art, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, oh, no, mommy does, blah and blah. And she works with, other people. They're great. And says, but why don't you do art? And it was so natural for him to just say, why don't you just do it? And having a son with special needs, it's beautiful. It forces you to just live life through a different lens. And it's like, yeah, why can I not? Why can I not? What's holding me back?
Yeah, it offers a very different perspective, and it makes you kind of just understand what the basic needs of life are and kind of what to go after. And you get like a very authentic and real reaction from a child that's unfiltered by society, which makes it super fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it sounds like you've made that decision. Let's call it
November 1st.
Okay, I was gonna say less than 6 months.
1st.
So a few months ago. So we are brand new. And I assume it's been filled with a lot of stress and anxiety, but in a good way, of just trying to figure out how am I going to really make this happen.
I'm just really blown away of how much support I've received. I know I have good friends because I'm very careful of who I let in. My circle is very tight, but it's just, they're so great. At the moment I told them that what I had chosen to do, not one ever said, "You're crazy. They were like, finally, thank you, God, yes." And it was like, okay, it was just me waiting on me. So that definitely helped a lot. And they helped all throughout. Some of them are helping me with like my logo and my flyers and all the small little things, but
so
I'm surprised of how, yes, it's hard, but it hasn't been as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like you have an amazing support system around you, and basically you've turned them into a bunch of minions and assistants for you, which is fantastic. So that is really, really helpful. I do want to talk kind of about your art specifically in terms of like what your medium is, how do you create? You mentioned a lot of it's based on how you're feeling or what's inside your head. Do you have a specific style? Just talk about your work in general for a second.
Yeah. So I work mostly with acrylic. I also work with UV light. So I work with both. I have to draw with regular light, and then I have to turn all the lights and turn on my UV light lamps to make sure everything is flowing how I want it to be. My theme are just little worlds, and pretty much I'm representing people in my life, and I just create people and I turn them into worlds, and each color, the texture refers to something. And the idea is that we are all very different from each other, even though we are so similar too at the same time. It's such a, irony. And to me, to be able to shine in dark, to be able to shine light when nobody is believing in you, when you have everything against you, when you don't know where to go next. And to me, it's a reminder that we have that light in us. We were built from the source. And we can't, I say this for my own, because that's what gets me through, going through my dark moments back in my youth. I'm just grateful that I stuck around. I'm grateful that I was able to hold on. I'm grateful that I was able to push through it. I'm grateful that, medicine was around. I'm grateful for therapy. I'm grateful that God came in my rescue, obviously. But to me, it's the reality that success is not just how much money you make out of things. For me, success is being able to be at peace with yourself. It's being able to walk through the dark with someone or without someone and understand that you're worthy of being here, that you're worthy of your dreams, that what you pursue versus what your friend is pursuing, it makes no difference of what's better or not. It's like everybody's worthy of having that choice. And obviously coming and having to flee a country because of our safety makes it even more of a big deal for me, because I know that I know the privilege I have of being a dual citizen, of being an American and a Colombian, and of being able to not have to worry about my safety like I did when I was a kid. So to me, my art represents to be able to reminder that you do have that capacity to be great, to go be the best person you could be. And whether somebody acknowledges or honors that, that's not on you. We can't force people to honor us. We can't force people to see your greatness, because it's you. You are it. You are the light. So as you walk, you know, the path will light up, and you keep going.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't know if you noticed when we met, but I actually have "Keep Going" tattooed on my wrist. So yeah,
I saw it. Yes, I did. Yes.
I say that all the time because it's super important, right? Because at the end of the day, nobody else is going to be there but yourself, and you know you're going to be the person to build the road ahead of you. And part of that, and I'd like to transition in talking about what you're building for yourself, and then also for the community of Worcester, because you're giving people something to go see that's new and different. One, to start about your upcoming show, why or how did you get the idea to do your own show as an artist? Because I'll say that usually, or from my experience, or the people that I kind of talk to, like you'll build up a number of works, you'll try to sell them on Etsy, you'll try to sell them online, and then years in, maybe you host a solo show. You're 2 months in, you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna host a solo show.
Welcome to who I am. I am backwards, and I don't like rules. I don't like them, because it's just, why? Again, why do we have to do certain art itself? It's such a statement of going against the rule. This is why I think art is my thing, because no paint is gonna, you know, what you see when I draw, it's not gonna cause the same feelings and what other person it's gonna see when they see a drawing of mine, because it's all based of who we are. It's based of where we are in our lives at that point when we see that art. So for me, after so much research, I got so overwhelmed because of everything that I read, everything that, you know, how the process is and how it works. I just sat down and said to myself, if I wait for the perfect time, if I wait to have the perfect audience, if I wait to have enough money to be able to do it, I'll never do it. And that's just reality. You know, I will never be able to do it, because I don't think I would ever be ready. You could prepare yourself as much as you can, but so much happens with time. And again, it's the time thing. How do I know I have 6 more months? How do I know I can do this in another year? And I said, the time is now or never, and that's how I am. And then I was very blessed to be able to find a friend who allowed me to use the place I'm using to host my solo. And it's literally me and my head going at it. There's no one else telling me how it needs to be done, what guidelines need to be done, what you do at a solo. Is just me just going with my art and just pretty much, again, no rules, just doing it, and doing it because it makes me happy, doing it because I am trying to prove myself that it can be done, that we live in a world of abundance, regardless if people want to tell you there ain't enough and it's not enough and you have to starve, or you know, you can't do it, or you have to wait, or you have to wait for the grants, or you have to wait for the person in charge of something to help. Like that doesn't sit well with me, because yes, we do need people to help us, and we do need those grants, and we do need the help, but what can I do so I don't have to wait for that help? What can I do in my end to get it going? And part of why I'm doing this is, and just to kind of tell people, if you're waiting really for the perfect time, for the perfect opportunity, I would just say it's now.
I think that's awesome. And definitely I agree with you. It's, why not, right? So talk about like how many, works are you going to have within the space you're using, this new complex or kind of apartment building, and you were really taking up a month-long space to showcase your work. I'll put in a link below in the bio of this episode so people can go look at it or drive out. A lot of listeners are from the Massachusetts area. But talk about like, what do you have, like a plan of like how many works you're showcasing, or is it like is there a story of how it's all going to look, or is it, random, or kind of talk about like, how are you kind of showcasing it?
Yeah. So I am roughly doing 15
Okay.
canvases. They're all going to be standing around the place. I love that place. It's, again, beyond my dreams, beyond what I could ever imagine for a first solo. The context historically with the place, and I'm very excited. But I'm gonna have my artist statement for why I'm doing the solo, and I'm gonna have a painting next to it. There's gonna be UV light too, because so my paintings are 2-in-1. You get a version without the UV light, and then once you turn the UV light, you get the second painting. And then there's gonna be like a little room, and when you get there, you're gonna see it. But it's gonna have my self-portrait and my biography, and it has benches, so you can actually sit down and just stare at it and contemplate it and do what we all do.
That's awesome.
Take it all in.
So that's a number of works. And if I had to ask you what percentage, because it's coming up on January 20th for those that are thinking to themselves, when is this? So it's probably in a couple weeks now. What percentage done or complete are you, do you think?
I'm so proud of myself. I'm 90%.
Oh, okay.
I'm ready.
Much higher than 90%. I thought. Good for you.
Yeah, no. I don't do good with like waiting last minute. I that's not my thriving. That's not where I thrive. So I tried. I've been putting in a lot of work. I've been going to bed like 3-4 in the morning. But it's what I love to do. So I don't really complain about it.
So with that being said, I'd love for you to share kind of just if you could break out your day-to-day in terms of hours, because you also shared that you were working really late nights with me when we met, but break down like your time of your day and kind of how do you divide up what you have to do and what you have to accomplish, to give people perspective, because people say they work a lot, but a lot of times they don't. And I truly believe that you are the person who is not lying when you say you work a lot. But kind of if you could just bracket out your day today, if you could.
Yeah. So because of the kids, there's a lot of breaks in between during the day, but I get up from 4:30 to 5 in the morning. I like to read a lot, so I try to get my reading done in the morning. I try to plan ahead. I try to plan at least 6 months of the year ahead. So I try to put as many things I want to get done. So I try to break down what I can do towards those goals. So I start painting around 5:30 to 6. Then I have to drop off the kids to school around 7:45. I drop them off. I make myself a cup of coffee. I keep going, grinding, emails, calls. Then I have to check in with my team, my dream team, 6 girls who are helping me. Some of them are helping me with like media. Others are helping me with my website. So I have to like check in with them and see where we are, what we need, what do I need to get done for them, because they also have full-time jobs. So I have to be very, I have to take that into account, and I don't want to obviously put more in their plates that they need to take on, because again, they're helping me. Then I have to prep lunch for when the kids get out of school, and lunch needs to be ready like around 2. I get them. Then we do homework. So around 2 to 4, I kind of like block that time out to be with the kids. And then again, grind mode, 5. And that usually goes 12 to 1 a.m.
And you're creating this entire time. You're just like, what is it? I mean, that's a lot. That's a long day, folks. I know that 99% of you motherfuckers listening do not wake up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. So that in itself is a very special thing, and it's very difficult to do, and it takes a incredible discipline.
You need discipline. Yeah. Life requires discipline. Life requires you to push through those days where you say you can't do it, but you gotta do it. And once you crack that code, you're golden.
Yeah. Do you? I don't even know how to like break this out. What do you think helps you push through, right? Like, is it because everybody reaches burnout modes or they don't feel creative? And a lot of times what I find is that sometimes just the act of going and being present and like walking into your studio, or even if you don't really are dreading or you don't want to, even putting out your paint onto a plate, just going through the motion to create will actually help, because once you start, it's easier to get going, right? So what's something that helps you get through those moments where you're like, man, I really don't want to do this?
I remind myself that I quit a really great job. I remind myself that I'm not doing it because I'm worried about how I'm going to get through the next few months. I remind myself that I'm doing this because I'm going to honor my calling. I'm going to honor my time, the time that God has granted me. And for me, that's my respect to my, to why I am what I am, to why I do what I do, to being the best mother I can be. I'm just honoring the fact that I'm granted health. I'm granted, shelter. I'm granted a lot of things that we do tend to take for granted because we think they come to us so easily. That I know from my background that, I saw kids that shouldn't have to live the way they did. And it's like, I honor those people that can't have the place that I have. So I try not to waste what I'm given. It would be like, materials. You have to think of life as that. You're being given materials for free. And for people who don't have access to it, they wouldn't waste any of it. Why should we? Just because we don't see our time and our health. And again, that goes back to abundance. It's there. And how you use that is what it's going to give its worth later in life. That's the value.
You have an incredible perspective on life in general compared to most people that are 30 years young. So I applaud you for that perspective, and it's really beautiful and it's inspiring to hear. And hopefully everybody's getting a lot out of this, because I know I'm enjoying this conversation.
Thank you.
Do you have you, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, that you plan 6 months out, right? So do you have an already actionable item in your brain after the show? Or because I know it hasn't even happened yet, right? So you don't know if it's gonna, theoretically, you don't know if it's a success or a failure yet. But do you already have something that you're already working on as the next phase?
Absolutely. My next, what I wish to conquer next will be murals, prints, gear, merch. I would love to have my logo and collaborations. I would love to do another solo abroad. I'm really into NFTs. That's really what's taken most of my time. I'm working on my drop in March.
You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I also was impressed when you first told me that you were actually exploring in NFTs, because usually, I mean, you're just so brand new to this space that like, you're just fuck it, I'm going to tackle all aspects. I'm not even trying to check one box. I'm just doing it all, So
I started NFTs in June. And I thought that was so crazy because it's such a, not because of how new it is, because I don't think it's really that new. It's the fact of how accessible it is to everyone. And for people that like to create, it's such a broad place to be whatever and do whatever you want, and tapped into so many different fields within. And I think that's mind blowing. That's what took me. The fact that you could just create and it would be endless. And yes, but it's brand new and but I don't think it's that hard to grasp. I think there's a lot of education. I think it's just that we are very lazy and we don't like to, you know, watch the 37-minute clip on YouTube, and we don't want to educate ourselves because we tend to come from a place where we want everything handed down to us, or just being told, just get this, add that, and that's it. And to me, I think it's very accessible to everybody, and I wish everybody would hop on it. And because I feel like everybody would benefit from it.
Yeah, and I do think we're definitely still at the beginning parts of it, and eventually it will become part of everyone's day-to-day life. It's just a matter of if people are willing to change early or late, and that it's like everything. It's everything comes in the same cycles, and I think it's great that you're ahead of the curve. I'm very much in the space myself, so I look forward to the NFT drop. I first look forward to physically present art as well, and going to visit the show. I have two last questions for you. The first is, where can people follow your journey? Where can people follow you? What kind of platforms do you have? Website, Instagram, Twitter, is the whole 9 yards. Just let the people know where they could follow your journey.
So I would say Instagram, it's where I'm the most active. I'm still working on the website, and then my Twitter, which I also just got because I'm really not good in social media, ironically. I tend to keep everything to myself, but now because of my solo, I've been pushed really out my boundaries and my comfort zone. But yes, there is a Twitter and an Instagram.
And what are the handles?
It's V.OROGI for Instagram. And then for Twitter, sorry, as I looked into it.
It's so brand new. She's got to look.
So my Twitter would be at V-OROGI.
Awesome. And as you're building out your website, do you think that'll be your personal name, or it'll still be under your alias?
It would still be under Borgi.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll have to stay tuned for that one. And then your last question for you. If you had, and I like to ask almost all my guests this question because I seem to get a very broad range of responses, but they're all positive, which I love, ending the show on a really high note. What's one piece of advice that you would either give a creative, younger version of yourself, anybody who's really kind of struggling or looking to find their way? If you had one piece of advice to give anybody in the world, what would that be?
I would say what has helped me: don't point fingers. Stand in the mirror. Even if you don't like what you're looking at, face it, sit with it, listen to yourself. Sit with your darkness, because it is in the dark that you're going to figure out who you are, what your strengths are, what your calling is. Self-aware, do the work, put in the time, do the work. If you need counseling, if you need to seek out therapy, do it. We all need help. We all need someone. And then that's okay. And I think my whole belief is it starts with you and it ends with you. There's something in your life you don't like. If there's something in your group of friends that you don't like, it has to go back to you. You have to take responsibility, because that's everybody around you is a reflection of where you are in life. So if your, frequencies ain't high, go back to you and see where you are. what's dropping and what's bringing you low, and vice versa. If things are going well and you like what you see, then keep going and just find what's next and push yourself. Really, truly push yourself out of your comfort zone.
I love that. Yeah, definitely have those conversations with yourself and be self-aware. That's an amazing way to end the show. Vanessa, thanks for joining us on an Untold Narrative episode 53. I'm so excited over the next couple of weeks to go see your show and everything else. And hopefully everybody goes and follows your journey and sees what you create in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.